Hi class, this is Mr. Tan, and today we are doing Marketing Essentials. And in Marketing Essentials, we are looking at P2. And P2 says, explain how the roles and responsibilities of marketing relate to the wider organizational context. So the first thing that we do in any marketing question or any question is to break the whole question down and to try and understand it. And the first thing we must do in that is to identify and understand the key words. And the key words here are explain. Explain means to go into more detail, and relate. So now that we've understood the key words, we must then look at the question. The question is saying, what are the roles and responsibilities of marketing, which we've done in P1, and then how do the roles and responsibilities of marketing relate to the wider organizational context? So in terms of the wider organizational context, normally your college will give you a case study, and that case study will be focused on a specific company. So for the London School of Fashion, the case study that we're using is Apple, hence the reason why we are here today in the heart of Covent Garden, and in front of us is an Apple store. So if you look behind or in front, we can see an Apple store. The Apple logos, the beautiful big store in a nice location of London, which is in Covent Garden. And I don't know if you can see inside the store, but you can see how open, how spacious the Apple store is, and how they've got their Apple Macs and phones all laid out nice and neat where people can actually play on them. So it's a really nice location. And later on, once I finish the question, I will then take you around Covent Garden. So let's go back to the question. So the question says, again, explain how the roles and responsibilities of marketing, keyword now, relate to the wider organizational context. So, what's the first thing we need to do? Well, we need to look at, again, the key roles and responsibilities of marketing. Now, already in P1, we've looked at the key roles and responsibilities, and we've actually gone into more detail. So even though in P2 we are going over the key roles and responsibilities again, we still need to lead into that, into the introduction. So let's just do a quick recap in terms of P1, the key roles and responsibilities of marketing. As I see it, the key roles and responsibilities can be from two perspectives. One, a strategic perspective, and two, an operational perspective. So one of the key roles and roles of marketing is to, again, look at and integrate and make sure that all the strategic and operational functions are actually meeting the aims and objectives and the mission statement of the company. So if we look at Apple, for instance, when Steve Jobs was alive and he was heading Apple, his mission statement was all about making the world a better place and developing products to make the world a better place. Now that Tim Cook is the CEO of Apple, we can see that the aims and objectives of the company has actually changed. Now, the aims and objectives of the company is all about the products. And Tim Cook is basically saying that the products make the company. The whole existence of the company is all to do with the products and the designs. So, that's one of the roles of marketing. Another role of marketing is to look at the internal and external analysis, to look at the situation analysis, internal analysis in terms of SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats, external analysis in terms of PESTEL, Porter's 5-force model, the BCG matrix. So we are looking at these different models to gain information to try and understand what the situation is of the environment that the company is working in. So once we found out the internal and external analysis of the company, then the marketing strategy needs to be developed. Now, the marketing strategy, as we've said, has three predominant parts, which includes the marketing segmentation, the targeting, and the positioning. And then finally, it's to look at the implementation of the marketing mix, the product, the price, the place, and the promotion at an operational level, and also the extended marketing mix in terms of the people, the process, and the physical evidence. And then finally, to make sure that these are implemented and controlled. Implemented and controlled so that the strategic and operational objectives are actually being met. So when you're leading into this question, even though you've done the roles and responsibilities of marketing in P1, I would recommend that you still lead into the roles and responsibilities, leading into it briefly, but not going into as much detail as you did in P1. Now, the next thing to do, obviously, is to say, well, how does marketing, these roles and responsibilities, relate to the wider organizational context? In other words, what does the wider organizational context mean? Well, in other words, if we do one thing in marketing, how does that affect other areas of the organization? Well, what we need to do is we have to realize that when we talk about different functions of the organization, we are talking about different departments. So other departments of the organization. Other departments in Apple may include various, includes marketing, it includes administration, it includes human resources, it includes finance, it includes accounting, it includes their hardware department, it includes their software department. So it includes all the organizational departments. And in other words, how does one area of marketing affect other departments? But later on, we're going to give some examples. So the next thing I would suggest that you do to move on to this question is to talk about, in relation to your case study, so always making it in relation to the case study that your college has given you, to some of the departments that the company that you're researching has in its organization. The marketing, software team, hardware team in Apple, the finance department, the HR department, the retail department, merchandising department, and so on and so forth. And so you would talk about some of these functions, maybe 5 of these functions, 5 of these departments, and go into a little bit more detail in terms of what these departments do, in terms of HR supplies the resources that other departments need in terms of people and their appropriate skills and their qualifications to meet the needs of other functions in the organization, other departments in the organization. So you would explain 4 or 5. You may want to explain HR, administration, you may want to explain IT, you may want to explain the software department in Apple, the hardware department in Apple. But then the other thing is to understand how marketing relates. We kind of need to know a little bit about the structure of the organization. Don't worry, you might think it's going slightly off topic, but it's not, because you can also use this in business environment as well, in P3, in terms of organization structure. So when we're looking at Apple, for instance, I would then give a brief snapshot in terms of the structure of how Apple works, because how Apple works is obviously going to influence in terms of how marketing works and how it relates to other departments within the organization. So, I would talk about how Apple has kind of like a spoke wheel hierarchy. So even though they have a tall hierarchical type organization, it's spoke wheel, where Tim Cook is the CEO of Apple, and he's actually at the center of the spoke. And then radiating out from the spoke are SVPs, senior vice principals. And all the senior vice principals are on the upper tier responsible for a specific function, for a specific department. And all these senior VPs, the senior vice presidents, report to Tim Cook. So Tim Cook knows exactly what's going on. And then there is a sub-tier within the Apple structure. And the sub-tier is basically controlled by VPs, vice principals, and these vice principals by divisional sections separate different product groups by division. And then these vice presidents with their divisional areas will report to the senior vice principals, and the senior vice principals will then report to Tim Cook. So we can see how this works. So how does this work? How does this differ from Steve Jobs? Well, Steve Jobs was more central in terms of knowing everything, and there wasn't so much interaction according to Apple in terms of the different functions between the different departments in the organization. But according to the new PR on Apple, they're saying that with now Tim Cook at the center of this spoke wheel hierarchical two-tier, upper tier and lower tier type structures, more departments are now not only talking to Tim Cook, but more departments are talking to each other. So firstly, I would go over, in terms of answering the question, explaining what the roles and responsibilities are again in Apple. I would then